Welcome to Does the Team Think? And now here's your chairman, McDonald Hobley.
And in this program, you'll hear a variety of answers to a variety of questions put by a variety of people. So let's meet the people who'll be doing most of the answering. We have Cardew Robinson, Tommy Trinder, Ted Ray, and the man who dreamed it all up, Professor Jimmy Edwards. And waiting to put a question, we have Mr. Robert Wainwright. Hello, Mr. Wainwright. What's your question, please?
If the team were given £5,000 to go abroad, where would they go and why?
If the team were given £5,000 to go abroad, which country would they go to and why?
Can't I have 2,500 and stop here?
You can.
Well, I think with £5,000, I would like to go to Australia. I would like to go to Australia because, one, with their accent, I sound very refined. Two, £5,000 in Australia would be worth, what, about...
$10,000 they call them.
Yes, they're dollars now.
Than you, and they don't want you back.
Really?
They don't want Tommy Trinder back.
I mentioned his name, and I got 2 black eyes as a result.
Oh, depends who you mentioned him to.
A kangaroo.
Ted Ray.
I feel that £5,000 isn't a lot of money, so one would, quite seriously, Mr. Wainwright, to give you an answer to the question, one would have to put this money to its best possible use. Because one would, I presume, this is the finish, isn't it? 5,000, nothing. Well, judging by the number of Chinese restaurants here now, I would go to Shanghai and open a fish and chip palace.
Cardew Robinson.
Well, Mr. Wainwright, are we going to be given this money to leave the country?
Yes.
I'm going to stick up for a better offer. But if I had to go, I had to make up my mind, well, with my tastes, I don't think £5,000 would last very long. I live rather...
What are you going to do, lick it?
No, I shall spend it. And
What do you mean,
eventually-
lick it? It's the lolly we're talking about.
So I shall eventually have to work. There's not all that amount of money, so you have to go somewhere you could work after the lolly ran out. So you have to go somewhere they speak English. That cuts America out.
Don't be unkind to our transatlantic
Jimmy
friend.
Edwards, sir.
Well, I agree with Cardew. I resent the implication that I can be bought for 5,000 quid and got rid of.
Where would you go, Jim?
Well, I'm unfortunately here. I do have to agree momentarily with that ignorant, long-cheeked idiot called Trinder. I would go to
You're
Australia.
talking of the man I love?
I would go to Australia. I don't think I'd go to the part of Australia that he prefers. I'd go to the less populated part of it.
Why, you're going to populate it?
No, he's going to go to where they have the rock.
It's not a bad idea. But I think Western Australia holds the most promise at the moment of any English-speaking part of the world for people who want to go and start. We wouldn't be starting, all of us, good gracious. Even with 5,000 quid, we couldn't be said we were starting.
Do a comeback, though, couldn't we?
No, but you couldn't come back somewhere where you've never been.
But you have been.
I'd go to Perth. I've never been to Perth. It's an awful long way from Sydney and Melbourne, isn't it?
No, I've been there on several occasions. I drove across the Nullarbor Plains, 13,000 miles of nothing.
And how did the camel stand up to it?
No, I had a donkey at the time.
Oh, you took the wife.
Yes. And rode side saddle.
One of the most pleasant places I've been to. And let's face it, quite honestly, the money does mean an awful lot. People say money isn't everything. My goodness, it is, you know. I have been several times to the Canary Islands.
I know you've been to the Canary Islands.
you been?
No, I haven't, but every time
Food is so cheap. 10 shillings a bottle. Food.
Food?
That's all it is.
At the Canaries, it was a handful for 10 shillings.
Handful of what?
Grain,
Seed.
Seed. But, Ted, every time you've been there, very kindly and sweetly and thoughtfully, you've sent me a postcard, and I could stab you for it, because I'm always in the middle of one of my winter colds or flu or something.
Well, that's why you must come with
Could
me
you
to the
buy
Canary
a
Islands.
complete Canary Island for £5,000?
No, you couldn't buy it, but I'll
They're
tell you
very
what...
small, surely, these Canary Islands, aren't they? In any case, the way I live, OK, I go abroad with £5,000. What do I do on the second day?
Thank you, team, very much, and thank you very much, Mr. Robert Wainwright. Thank you. And now, team, you'll hear a question from Mrs. Enid Handy.
That's handy.
Okay, there we go. Mrs. Handy, would you like to hand in your question?
Can the team advise me on how to remember things when I should remember them, instead of the day after I've forgotten to remember them?
Put some music to that, you got a hit.
Can the team advise Mrs. Handy how to remember things when she should remember them instead of the day after she's forgotten to remember them. If you
Start a day later.
How did you manage to remember to turn up here?
I put yesterday's date on the calendar.
Well, I would say, my dear Novocastrian from Newcastle.
Nearby.
You see what I mean? Isn't it marvellous?
Whereby Hetley Hole, Chesterley Street, Houghtonleigh Springs.
Pity me.
I do.
I know.
They're
all
swinging
those-
well tonight. I would
know
say
all
the
those
answer to your question, my dear, is you have to concentrate more. You see, the point is that somebody is telling you something or you have something to do and you're not concentrating on it. Now, what you must do is get an association of ideas in your mind.
I'll tell you what I do. I always tie a knot in something.
Really? There's a great comic called Harry Mooney, and he did a great double act with a fellow named Murray and Mooney, you see, and he had a lovely gag about this very thing, and he used to say, the straight man said, what's that string on your finger? He said, well, that string is tied in a knot. He said, yes. And he said, and that reminds me of a flower, a not forget-me-not. He said, yes. He said, well, a flour, he said, with flour you make bread. He said, yes. And he said, with bread you have cheese. He said, so? He said, well, the wife told me to go and buy some pickled onions.
But there are these, what are they called, this business of writing the first
Pelmanism.
letter? No, mnemonics or something.
Who? Harmonics.
No, mnemonics.
You write down the first
same
letter
to you.
of the things that you want to remember, and you make up a sentence about it.
That's right.
When I was flying, there were certain things you had to remember before you took off. And I used to remember...
Like to have an aeroplane.
Well, assuming you were in the aeroplane.
Yes.
So things called the vital actions.
Oh, I love that. Oh, yes. Not like an audience, though.
They're like vital statistics.
No, they're vital actions. Some of them I used to do before I got in the aeroplane, but really,
There was no room in those small cockpits.
there are certain vital actions. But once you're in the cockpit, one used to go HTMPFFS.
What does that mean?
Hydraulics, trim, mixture,
Ah!
pitch, fuel, flaps, switches.
Yes.
That's how it was.
And then you found out you were still in the hangar.
Or on his horse.
That's the way they train the pilots. And of course, nowadays the aeroplanes are so complicated that you have to read it all out of a book. But we used to just say HTMPFFS, off we go.
Enid, tell me something. Has this ever caused you any embarrassment, this lapse of memory? Not
I have a
really.
habit of buying birthday cards weeks beforehand, putting them in a safe place and then forgetting. The next day I always remember things.
Ah.
Very sad, isn't
She's
it?
very sweet.
Because it can be embarrassing if you've got a really, really bad memory. There's a dear old professor in the maternity home, and the nurse came in and said, Professor, it's a boy. And he said, really, what does he want?
But you know, I think that Enid Handy would be... If there were a few more Enid Handys in the world, we could put them all in the audience and do the same act for years.
But of course, you remember things about your own particular activities. I mean, for example, in show business, you have a lot of people who are absent-minded, but they never ever forget their lines.
You're
It's about One
joking.
thing.
Well, I wondered if the team had any special ideas where they could remember their lines, you know, when they come on.
If you can't remember, there are ways of getting out of it. Dear old A.E. Matthews once had a very, very long speech on the telephone, supposed to be speaking to somebody on the other end of the phone. Went on for ages, and one night this dear old actor picked up the telephone and forgot every line, so he turned to the nearest actor on the stage and said, it's for you.
Thank you, team, very much, and thank you very much, Mrs. Enid Handy. Thank you. And now, team, you're going to hear a question from Mrs. Betty Norcott. Hello, Mrs. Norcott. What's your question, please?
As entertainers themselves, how does the team like to be entertained?
As entertainers themselves, how does the team like to be entertained?
Well, there's nothing like an old-fashioned orgy. I never, really, unless it's a different kind of comedy from the comedy in which we four live in, which is mostly verbal comedy, although, you know, some of us appear on the stage now and again and make it a bit visual too. I like to go to a good play. I find it's much more entertaining than seeing some other comedian getting more laughs than you get.
I think I would like to have all my hobbies indulged in one day.
You filthy beast.
So I'd like to go to somewhere that they have a very, very nice tennis court. I'd like to play tennis in the morning,
Police court in the afternoon.
possibly.
An
A
amateur court
lovely
at night.
lunch with champagne and brandy after
Who's he
that.
kidding?
Then in the afternoon,
Who's he
play some
kidding?
table tennis. In the evening, I would like a nice
Does the team dream?
film show. Nice film show, more champagne, more brandy, and you can pick me up at 1 Kingsbridge Avenue, W3.
And is that why you look like that?
What an extraordinary life you want to lead, Cardew. You're going to play tennis and ping pong.
Yes?
No, you see, what she's trying to get at is what we like to do in the evening, isn't it? I'll tell you what I do.
We know what you do.
If I'm out on the town, as you might say. Actually, I don't do it in London because I'm afraid of being recognised.
Well, you can't do it in Sussex, there's no facilities. They're all outside, there's no facilities in the house.
Take me to a foreign capital. Paris, Brussels, Rome.
All change, mind the doors.
And let's have a night out with Jimbo. The first thing you do is go in the bar and say to the barman, give me a bomb atomic.
Oh, yes, that's a Mickey Finn, isn't it?
It doesn't matter
The
what
French
it is.
accent, yes.
Something very strong.
And you
Methylated spirits with a cherry in it.
That lifts you off the ground. Then you have 3 more of those, and when you're about 6 feet off the ground, you go and see, shall we say, the Folies Bergère. Now, there's an entertainment for you in itself.
I went to the Folies
You see things
Bergère.
there that you only dreamt of.
Like your brother.
You know, Mrs. Norcott, strange is...
I haven't finished my evening out yet.
He's only got up to supper time.
I thought you'd got a hangover already.
He hasn't even started yet.
No, the Folies Bergère is an evening in itself, you know. It goes on for about 3 hours. The interval's long
What do you
enough.
go there for? To be entertained or to reminisce?
No.
You know, I got the dead needle. I went to the Folies Bergère once in my life, and I went in there, and I was with my wife. They charged me corkage. And a very attractive usherette put us in our seats and put her hand out.
Fancy taking your wife to the Folies Bergère. It's like going poaching and taking the game key.
I mean, actually, I'm still pursuing my night out in Paris.
I can hardly wait.
How far have you got?
I don't know
Okay.
where- I'm coming with him, I'll tell you that.
The Lido's finished. Okay, that's over. So you go around the bar next door and order a glass of Vin Ordinaire. Before you know where you are, all the birds from the show come in and have another glass of Vin Ordinaire. So you're chatting the birds then.
Well, I know you're right, because I've never seen you with more ordinary birds in my life.
Then you go.
Sorry, Jim.
Then you go to a nightclub. You see, in Paris you can entertain yourself all night. It goes on all night.
Let's hear from our questioner.
She's lovely, isn't she?
She's been very mum-chance, haven't you, Mum?
Right, now, Mrs. Norcott, how do you like to be entertained in the evening?
Well, I thought about this.
I thought
and-
you did, yes.
And whichever way I said it, it sounded wrong. First of all, I was going to say, by my husband. That didn't sound quite right. Then I was going to say with my husband, and I didn't think that sounded quite right either.
So you're not going to say either?
Well, how long have you been married?
16 years.
16
16
years?
years.
And
Have
you
you
still find your husband entertaining?
Yes.
I must find his scriptwriter.
Have you any ideas, Mrs. Norcott, how you would entertain us?
No, not at all.
I would be quite serious, actually, about this question. I like the opera more than anything else. If I really am going to make the effort to get into some clothes and,
Why, do you usually go about nude?
and go out for the evening, I prefer to go to Covent Garden more than anywhere else in London.
And drink.
But it's got to be, mind you, the intervals are terribly long there.
But you're going to
They
bar.
have 25-minute intervals, and you can't half shove some stuff down, do you?
Thank you, team, very much, and thank you very much, Mrs. Betty Norcott. Thank you. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to meet our special guest, a young comedian who's made a very big impact on the British scene in a very short space of time. Ladies and gentlemen, Jimmy Tarbuck. Welcome to the program, Jimmy.
Thank you very much.
Have a seat.
Thank you.
Get your driver out and drive.
There we go. Afternoon, boys.
Hello, Jim.
Nice to see you, Ted. Anyway, here we go. Does the team think that they are in the right occupations?
Does the team think that they are in the right occupations?
Well, I think it's the easiest way I know of making money. Digging roads is much harder.
It is the only business where you can get such fabulous money without serving an apprenticeship.
Don't tell everybody.
Let's just see if Jimmy would like to expand that question a bit.
No, they've been very nice to me. I won't expand it. But I've got one or two occupations that I thought might work for the boys.
What are they?
The boys, I use the word loosely, fellas. Yes. Well, Jimmy Edwards, I thought he should be an expert camper. Looks like he's wearing a tent. Problem. Exit stage right, laughing. And then Ted Ray, professional ferret, he's always rabbiting. And as for Tommy Trinder, well, I think he should compile dictionaries because he's always trying to get the last word in.
No, he tries but does.
Well, that's about it. No?
All right, that's fine. I think you have expanded.
What about me then? Don't
What
I
about
get a
poor old
job?
Cardew Robinson?
Cardew?
Don't I get a job?
I didn't know you were on the team. I thought you were the other three's probation officer.
Isn't it a remarkable thing that people very seldom follow the pattern set by their fathers? For instance, Jimmy's father, a great friend of mine, incidentally, I knew him before Jim, which is natural, of course. A bookmaker in Liverpool, a great guy, Freddie Tarbuck.
Father? Oh, Jimmy. I'm sorry.
I'm talking not about your moustache, I'm talking about Tarbuck, not Tarbrush.
You're talking about the young Jim.
The young Jim. Well, you've
so
always
sorry.
been the young Jim to me till he came along and made us all look like an old-age pensioner. But really, Mac's father, a clergyman, McDonald Hobley. You can see how he failed. I mean, the son.
Hallelujah,
Jim-
brother, hallelujah.
Jimmy Edwards' father, a mathematics professor. Tommy Trinder's father was a tram driver. And I think I'm the only one of we six who really tried to follow his own father in his profession. And it wasn't my father's idea, but I became a ship's steward. And that was 30 years ago, and you know, some of those passengers are still waiting for their soup.
And I'll bet, Ted, you're still waiting for some of the tips.
Yes, I was. They were very mean, those passengers, to me.
Yes.
I must say, Jimmy, that you've got me worried about this because I've only been in this business 20 years and it's been temporary all along. The whole thing's been an experiment and I'm not so sure that it's been a success, and I'm sure the audience will agree with me here. Perhaps I ought to try something else. And if I were to try another occupation, I think I'd go back to what I started in, which is schoolmastering, because there's a great thrill about imparting knowledge which ignorant little so-and-sos in the...
You can't wait to get that cane in your hand, you vicious beast.
No, I don't want to cane them. I want to teach them something. When the dawn of knowledge spreads across a child's face, it's an exciting day.
When the dawn of knowledge spreads across a child's face, it's too late for him to go.
Do you know, as a matter of fact, at one stage, I wanted to go into the church, but the doors were shut.
You should have asked Mac's father, he'd let you in.
Yes, he would. Honestly, as a matter of fact, Mac's father's an old boy of my old choir school. I had 8 years in St. Paul's Cathedral, and it's still standing, you know.
What, St. Paul's?
I was a...
But they've cleaned it since.
I had to clean it when I left. But
Team,
no,
let's-
quite honestly, I think I would have made a very good Archbishop of Canterbury. I would have done. I got the diction.
Have you
You can
really?
hear everything I say.
well-
Right at the back of the cathedral.
But
And
what
that
about...
lovely purple robe would match my face.
And your purple heart.
Jim, what about the politician?
No, I've given
tell us-
that up. No, I never ever want to be a politician again. That's a waste of time.
Jim, do you want the final word?
Well, I would just like to say I asked them, do they feel they're in the right occupations? Having a great love of comedy, which I do have, and seeing all four of these gentlemen perform at several times that I've seen, I'm so pleased that they didn't choose other occupations, because I'd like to thank them for the pleasure that they have given me.
Oh,
Thank you very much, and thank you, Jimmy Tarbuck. Thank you. And now, team, you're going to hear a question from Mr. Derek Kaplan. Hello, Mr. Kaplan. Can we hear
Hello.
your question, please?
What quotation do the members of the team use as a guide to their way of life?
What quotation do the members of the team use as a guide to their way of life, assuming they do?
Well, there'll be several quoted, which I don't take any notice of, but I think the quotation I revere most was on the trams. Do not pass behind the car until you know the road is clear.
and it doesn't even rhyme.
It's not supposed to. None of these quotations rhyme.
Do you mean to say that that has left an impression? You must have been hit by a tram.
No. I used to look at that notice when I watched my dad driving on me holidays.
Tommy's never forgotten the fact that his dad was a tram driver.
I'm very proud.
I know.
And his right foot is always pulling clangers.
Tommy's dad gave birth to one of the most marvellous ad-libs. This old lady was very nervous when the trams were first introduced, and she said, if I put my foot on the line, will I get a shock? And he says, no, madam, unless you put the other one on the overhead wire. Now you know where Tommy got that rapier-like wit from. He's not going to deny it because he's proud of it.
I think a saying, I don't think, we're being asked about quotations, but a saying, I don't think this is actually a quotation from anybody's works, but a saying which would fit the entire panel is where there's muck, there's brass.
I think
Well, that is in your case, as you blow it.
As we're all actors, loosely speaking, I think a quotation might be sort of as even a small role is better than a long loaf.
You know, that's very good.
I'll give a quotation. The late Sir James Barrie said, God gave us memories so that we can have roses in December. We've got memories so as we can put the gags in this programme.
And you remembered that?
Yes.
And always remember, too, in our business, always be nice to the people you meet going up, because on the way down you'll find them doing your act.
Or kindly leave the bath in the condition in which you would wish to find it yourself.
Well, my old Uncle Reuben...
That is true of life. Kindly leave life as you would wish in the condition with which you... Kindly leave life in the condition in which you condition it. That's a very good one that I stand by.
Take 'em out,
Hello,
Jim.
my bottle's empty. Finished.
And my old Uncle Reuben, who loved the bottle...
He was always rubbing it in, wasn't he?
He was rubbing it. They used to rub his back with rubbing alcohol, and he broke his neck trying to lick it off. And he was told by his doctor, he said, Reuben, he said, if you don't stop drinking, he said, you are going to die. And Uncle Reuben said, Doc, I've been around for 75 years, and I want to tell you something, he said. You see more old drunks than you see old doctors.
Mr. Kaplan, what quotation has guided your way of life?
There's one little poem which I use as a guide, and it went, "'Tis easy enough to be pleasant, while life goes along like a song. But the man worthwhile is the man who can smile when every damn thing goes wrong."
And I'll tell you, that's Mark. And I will tell you another one, which is in a similar vein. It's easy to smile when your ship comes in, and you've got the stock market beat. But the man worthwhile is the man who can smile when his shorts are too tight in his seat.
I've got one. All that glitters is not gold, and all that is sweet not honey. So pity the man who marries for love and then finds his wife has no money.
We ought to be writing birthday cards.
Do you know that one team about the chap who was rather miserable
Yeah,
one
but you
day?
can't tell that, Mac.
Yes, I can. This little man sat very, very miserable. He sat there and he said, "One day as I sat sad and lonely without a friend in the world, I heard a little voice over my shoulder saying, 'Cheer up, things could be worse.' So I cheered up and things got worse."
I think that's great.
There's a thing up in St Paul's Cathedral about Sir Christopher Wren. Now, Sir Christopher Wren created a great deal of beautiful churches and things, and his epitaph was "Si monumentum requiescat circumspice."
Oh,
Was it really? I could have fooled me.
I thought that would have been
like-
outside a synagogue.
I would like to have created something somebody could write that about.
Yeah.
If you require a monument to me, look around you.
That's lovely.
I'll tell you a very good one for motorists. To speed is human, to be caught a fine.
And there's another one, too. If you drink like a fish, don't drive, swim.
Thank you, team, very much indeed. And that, I'm sorry to say, brings us to the end of this edition of Does the Team Think? We'd like to thank all those who asked the questions, particularly our special guest, Jimmy Tarbuck, and, of course, our team of thinkers, Cardew Robinson, Tommy Trinder, Ted Ray, and Professor Jimmy Edwards. This is McDonald Hobley saying goodbye to you all. Goodbye.
Does the Team Think was presented by the BBC.